Gabby Cabby, Peter Franklin standing by in New York City. Good morning, Peter Franklin.
Good morning, live from the beautiful streets of New York.
Listen, Peter is, of course, in New York City and gives a tour of the Big Apple.
Thank you for that.
A tour like you've never seen. And you also have a new updated website and all that stuff. You can check it out, the True Tales.
Very nice of you, sir.
From New York City. Okay, let's go with, how about the CIA assessment concluding that Russia did interfere with the U.S. presidential election? I would like your opinion on that.
Well, it's not just my opinion, but remember, I'm giving you the opinions of the conversations I'm eavesdropping on in the back of the yellow mobile conveyance lounge.
Yeah.
And most people think it's a lot of crap. I mean, in terms of, like, how did they do it? Why did they do it? What was the reason for it? So I think you would say that the consensus, it's not, and I agree, is that it's just a bunch of baloney.
And that's what, that's kind of what people are. Speaking of that,
and Trump.
Do you know that show where they get it's true questions of the people in the cab drive or cab taxi, and they're driving through and they're asking all these relationship questions? Is that real?
No, it isn't. As a matter of fact, and I'm glad you brought that subject up because any opportunity I get to talk about it, I love talking about it. The Taxi and Limousine Commission actually sent a letter to that production company telling them to cut it out because they weren't doing it. It wasn't properly licensed. They didn't have the permission from the city of New York. And also they were picking and choosing. As you know, if you're going to just talk to anybody, well, then you're going to play it all. But if you're going to pick the ones that you want and the ones you don't want, and there were a couple of instances where when the people were boring, I love this, the cab driver actor said, "Get out of the cab."
Right, because they weren't entertaining enough.
Yeah, you're just boring. Get out of my cab. And I thought that's a wonderful idea, so I tried it for about a week.
How'd that go?
Not too well.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
No, I didn't really, but it's a great temptation. As a matter of fact, I think I may do it this morning.
Hey,
okay, you're boring. Get out of my cab.
I want we do it all the time in radio. I want to ask you about this war hero, this Green Beret war hero, who is saying that Donald Trump's pick for secretary, James Mattis, or his believed pick, left his men to die after they were hit by friendly fire in Afghanistan.
Yeah, well, listen, these kinds of, I'm saying this not as my experience as a cab driver, but my experience in the Army. There's always somebody who's going to come forward and talk about it in retrospect, but it's missing the main point of it. This guy cannot be Secretary of Defense. Now, I have nothing bad about him. I don't know anything bad about him. I've never heard anything bad about him other than this particular story. It specifically says, this is another one of these things like this Hillary thing where, nobody is supposed to violate the Espionage Act except certain people can do it occasionally. Yeah. Well, you can't be Secretary of Defense if you're a military guy, and you got to be out of the military for at least seven years.
Yeah.
So he doesn't qualify. And it just would be nice if one morning I would wake up and somebody would abide by some laws.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of with you on this. I want to ask you about the story of the guy who invented General Tso's chicken. He died, right?
Yeah, well, that was the article in the newspaper, and I thought it was a great story, and I just would bring it up with you because, of course, where would New York City be, and probably your nice little town also, without General Tso's chicken? I mean, this is a man who is a monument to food culinary art and all of that. So, yeah, he's passed away, and... it reminds me, of something I've been meaning to mention to you, and I haven't put down in my email to you. There's a McDonald's in Chinatown that's not allowed to serve Chinese food. And every time I pass it, I always think to myself, here's these guys that would like to probably serve Egg McMuffin and chop suey, and they just can't do it.
And they won't let them do it. And does
it's not the franchise.
I wonder if the McDonald's probably does well, right? You're there.
It does fantastically well. It's on Canal Street. I guess you and I just got a free dinner.
Yeah.
But I always like to point out to people that it's probably the only Chinese restaurant on the face of the earth that's not allowed to sell Chinese food.
That is funny. And the how about the deer? The one-antlered, you might call this, this deer was trying to be a unicorn in his world, made a wild journey across the East River to Manhattan, where neighbors say he's been horning in on Uptown Living. I like this.
That's very cute copy editing. But the fact of the matter is that there's certain neighborhoods in New York City which really have nothing to do with race or religion. But, a lot of people walk around with guns.
Right.
And the deer better watch what avenue and what streets it's hanging out on, because it's going to get itself into dinner one of these days when they catch it.
Let me tell you, upstate, well, it's that time of, is hunting season still underway? I believe deer hunting season, or is that concluded? But it is, it's a big time here in the fall around Thanksgiving that people hunt deer.
Nothing wrong with it.
The city cannot seem to get enough of the tiny bean-shaped vehicles. What are these? What are these vehicles?
Yeah, these cute little cars. People, the traffic is unbelievable. As a matter of fact, and even more so with the Trump thing and the Christmas season and what have you. So generally, you have the cops going around in regular size police cars, but what they're doing is they're downsizing, and they're getting these cute little cars, which are important because they'd like to use scooters, but they can't in the cold weather and the bad weather, the snowy weather. So I have a picture of it on the website of one of the cute little cars. They're so adorable. The only thing is, I guess they can't take any overweight prisoners.
Right. It's hard to. And speaking of traveling and taking people places, how about the story that I read last week? This comes out of the Roxy Hotel. And a valet took some hotel guests on a ride. Turned out it was a fake valet.
Yeah, well, the guy just was standing outside, and you pulled your car up, and you handed him the keys, and off you went. He went with the car, and the guy's complaining about it, and he wants to blame the hotel, and he wants to blame the city, and I think he should be arrested for being a schmuck.
I think you might be right.
Who gives their car keys to a guy standing on the street?
Hey, there's never a better time to visit New York City than right now. The holiday time is an incredible time to visit, and if you want to do a tour, Gabby.com is the website you go to. And Peter, you give the best tour in the city.
Well, thank you so much for that.
Good stuff. Enjoy your week. We'll talk to you next week, Peter.
Bye-bye.